Welcome to Product Rising. I'm Elizabeth Ames, the executive producer of Product Rising and the former CEO of Women in Product. At Product Rising, we focus on providing meaningful information and insightful conversations about how to succeed in product and advance your career. If you find this information helpful, please follow us and recommend us to others. For more information about Women in Product, please visit womenpm.org or join our community. Links are provided in the show notes. Today's episode is the third interview in our series, The Visibility Equation. This series was created and is hosted by Surbhi Gupta. With nearly 2 decades of experience driving product innovation across big tech and startups, Surbhi brings a wonderful blend of strategy, clarity, and human-centered leadership to this series. Our guest in this episode is Lauren Weinstein. Lauren is an executive coach and the founder of Resonant Coaching. She's also a lecturer at Stanford Graduate School of Business, where she's helped MBA students expand their capacity for powerful and authentic communication. She holds a BA in psychology from Stanford University and is also a graduate of Stanford Law School. And with that, I'll turn it over to Surbhi and Lauren.
Hey, Lauren, excited to have you here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let's start by knowing Lauren more. I'd love to know more about you.
Yeah, so I taught for 5 years at Stanford Business School, a class called Strategic Communication. And then for the last almost 12 years now, have been focused on communication for senior leaders and executives, startup founders, helping them have a bigger impact, clearer, more authentic and effective communication. So big communication focus, also a lot of just more holistic work. So help people regulate their nervous system, have a general more clarity and calm in their lives. I also do career coaching and life coaching.
Perfect gifts for this show because for visibility, strategic communication is so important. Our user interface with the world and how we communicate through our verbal, non-verbal, and then in writing and speaking, everything, because you don't know what I'm thinking, what is my mind like. It's only what I'm saying and writing, right?
So everything is communication. 100% what we do is only communication. The words we speak or write. So it is an important skill. I'd say it's the skill.
Yeah. I would love to start with getting to know what was the moment when you decided you want to actually become a strategic communication teacher. What led you to go there?
It wasn't intentional. It wasn't a straight line for sure. So I went to law school originally. Law school wasn't a fit. And so kind of had a massive pivot and just started to explore different paths and what interests me. I worked in consulting. I worked at a startup and was just fascinated and so engaged by anything personal growth in both of those places. And so decided to take a 3-day coaching class and completely fell in love. I was like, how is this a job? You get to talk to people all day and help them grow. So decided to focus on coaching. And then same thing, a little bit of trial and error. I studied at the Stanford Design School, and there's now a book that came out of it called Designing Your Life. And so I really took that approach of to just try different things, see where I had energy, see where there was resonance. And as I was doing that, I met someone who had gone to Stanford Business School. He received an email that Stanford Business School was looking for a speaking coach. And so applied, got the position. It was 10 weeks part-time, but completely fell in love with it. And then they asked me to stay on and coach for a TED Talk like program they had there. And then I was asked to co-teach the strategic communication class. So it wasn't intentional, but I, couldn't have asked for a better career. Completely love it. And yeah, it's been a perfect journey, even though it wasn't a straight line.
That's quite motivating. Can you tell us about a pivotal moment in your career when you took a very bold step, maybe cognitive risk that shaped your path towards building visibility?
Yes. I would say, just as I mentioned, it was graduating from law school, being halfway through studying for the bar, realizing it wasn't a fit. It didn't, resonate with me. And so stopped studying for the bar and really threw myself into the void. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew it wasn't that. And I find that's one of the most challenging areas when I work with clients. It's when your, old or current life isn't a fit anymore, but you don't know what the new one looks like yet. So to be able to go into that messy middle or void, I call it, it can be very challenging, but decided to leave. I had an offer to work at a law firm, let that go, and just really just started to explore, try different things, but then landed on coaching, which I mentioned I love. So I'd say for professional visibility, if you can find something that is just so engaging to you, that really lights you up, that you really have energy for it, it'll be more natural that you go above and beyond. And so when I was coaching students at Stanford, I just loved it so much. I'd be up with them till 10 o'clock at night working on their talks. I'd spend hours outside just researching and studying and learning, but I wasn't trying to do it. Like I just was genuinely engaged by it. So it made it easy, I would say, to stand out, which is why I was then asked to coach for the TED program and why I was asked to co-teach the class. But it came very naturally to me. So one piece of advice I would say is to try to find work or some aspect of it that you're naturally just so engaged by and you have energy to pour your heart into it, because that will make you stand out, that extra effort. And
So well
love.
said. Ultimately, it's all energy, and what you love doing, if you put it, then you are going to get more energized, and it becomes the flywheel effect where everything will turn out in positive. Awesome.
I was going to add too, I teach a lot about flow state. So the state enter where we have almost effortless peak performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's required that you're in a positive state of mind to enter flow.
Then what about it? I am very spiritually inclined. I would love to know more because everything is linked.
Yes.
Yes.
A great TED Talk is by Shauna Core. It's The Happy Secret to Better Work. And found that when we're in a positive state of mind compared to negative, neutral, or stressed, we perform better on literally every metric. We're more productive, we're more efficient, we're more creative. Salespeople sell more. So if you can get in yourself into a positive state, also the flow state research says it's really about state, you do hit peak performance, and it just pours out of you. It's almost effortless. What I did so much, I think not only was I going above and beyond, but also people could feel it. They could feel how much I enjoyed working with them and coaching and teaching. And that has an energy, to your point, that makes a difference as well.
Basically, the key takeaway here is if you like what you are doing, then you naturally go into this flow state. But the reality of the world is that not many people like all aspects of their work. So sometimes we are doing certain things which initially we may not like. So is there any other strategy that you have deployed or you have found that work for people to get into the flow state, even if it's not naturally that maybe they are okay with their work, not in the perfect love? How can you get into it by maybe engineering it somehow?
Yes, a couple ways. So let's say you don't like what the work is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're really passionate about being a really good leader or a really good team member, right? So you could really study and focus on what makes a great leader. What are those aspects? And that's what you're researching outside. And that's what you're practicing at work and really enjoying doing. Or maybe you like coaching and mentoring. And so you're doing that with other people on your team. So it's to find something within what you're doing that you can hang on to that does give you that energy. So that's one strategy. The other would be to do something outside of work or to take breaks that really fuel you and get you in that positive state. So then when you show up, from the weekend or at 8 a.m., you're bringing that energy with you into this environment. So it could be, in between times where you're really fueling yourself up and then you're using that energy to pour into whatever else you're doing.
I do that all the time. Like, I enjoy my work these days, but there have been times where I would do these other things. For example, if I would have to record this podcast today, we are doing it in the evening. I may do it at the first thing in the morning because I love talking to people like you and, get energized and then go to the work. So I'm already kicking myself with the fuel for the day. And yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah.
And I would say too, before this podcast or before any speaking engagement, I'm not answering emails. Like I'm very intentional about what I do before I enter a meaningful situation. I was on a walk before this, right? I was taking time to just breathe. I was getting myself in a grounded, positive state before coming in here. So that's something, even with all my clients, that we really focus on before you have something high stakes or meaningful, taking a certain amount of time to get yourself into a state where you have a much higher likelihood of performing better.
Okay. Generally, what I've seen when I talk to people, whenever there are super high stakes, their performance could vary and it becomes unpredictable. What they could be consistently performing well, but let's say it's a leadership wide meeting or something where they have to communicate, or they think, oh, it's my chance to bring my visibility across. Then people start feeling just too much pressure. I think counterintuitive to being in an energized state. So, any suggestions on that when you really want to outperform, and then you're like, okay, because you want to do, but you are not able to bring all these elements of being calm and composed. And then you naturally are not in your state of flow. What I'm getting from you is that in order to even build good communication, which actually builds visibility, you need to be in state of flow. So what happens when somebody is actually having a great opportunity and stakes are high and they want to get their best foot forward, but because of the pressure, they are unable to maintain that state of flow? Any suggestions on that?
Yes, great question. So this is something I love speaking about. So one, you can't enter a flow state if you are anxious, if you are overwhelmed. Those are incompatible. So the goal is to be really intentional about getting yourself in a calm, grounded, positive state. So I'll give two tools for doing that. So one is breath work, which is very powerful. I mean, Navy SEALs use breath practices when they have to go into combat. So this really works in high stakes situations. So one tool I'll give you is physiological. The other is psychological.
Okay.
So physiological, your body. So what I have clients do, you can put one hand on your chest and then one hand on your lower belly.
Okay, I'll practice with you.
Great, wonderful. Below your belly button. So a hand a bit lower, the second hand below your belly button. You can close your eyes. Then you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. So your lower belly goes out. And then out through your nose for a count of 6. So your lower belly goes flat. If I were with a client, I would give them 30 seconds, a minute to do this practice on their own. And so what this does is it kicks you into, so there's the sympathetic, we're either in a state of sympathetic or parasympathetic. Sympathetic is fight or flight. It's when we're amped. It's when we're activated. We're stressed. We're anxious. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. It's we're calm. We're relaxed. And so ideally you want to bring in that parasympathetic. And when your out breath is longer than your in breath, that's when you kick in that state. So by doing the 4-6, it could be 4-8. By having your out breath longer, you begin to calm your system. I have you put your hand on your lower belly because ideally you're breathing into your diaphragm. You're breathing in a deeper way. So most of us, when we're anxious, we breathe from our chest.
Yeah.
So we have reduced oxygen capacity. We feel more stressed. We don't think as clearly. There's literally more life force in you for breathing into your lower belly. So you put your hand there to make sure the breath goes down. And ideally, you're not moving your shoulders or your chest. And it's elevator straight down, lower belly, out breath is longer than your in breath. And to do that for a minute, 3 minutes, just at a certain point, you don't even need to count, but it's to have that cadence. Really calm your system. And you talked about energy, it brings the energy down. And so, when we think of what is a great leader, we describe them as grounded, rooted, gravitas, gravity. All the energy is down. The opposite would be, I was in my head, I was scattered, right?
I 100% agree with you because I've seen my humor occurs. Like, even if I'm in a normal situation, I could be more humorous when I'm in a good mood. I'm, grounded, and then even I have more creative ideas. But theoretically, my mind thinks, hey, if I'm not using my mind, how could I be more strategic? How can I win more visibility? Because that's like mind versus heart, right? When you say, like, when you're grounded, it's like to operate from your heart versus when you're in mind, you're operating from your head. Given this world and how we all are so we think like, okay, I'm operating from my brain, my mind is everything. It's so hard. Even I practice this and I believe I have seen practically, but theoretically, I just don't understand how it works. And I'm sure many of our listeners would have this question as well. If you know the rationale behind that, would love to hear it.
Yes, it's because our subconscious has access to a lot more information than our conscious mind. And so
Even on technical matters, subject matters, like which
because our subconscious is pulling in with the other person. I'm pulling in your facial expressions, right? I'm pulling in like all these tiny little things that aren't even in conscious awareness. So let's say you're interviewing someone and they look great on paper and you're like, I don't know, I just don't have a good feeling about them. Or this person has zero experience, but I have a really good feeling, right? That's because your subconscious is pulling in like 100 times more information. I forget the exact numbers, but the conscious mind is 20 bits of information per second, and then the subconscious is like 40 million bits per second. And
so it's a magnitude of difference, not like crazy magnitude. Okay.
a crazy magnitude of difference. That might be the exact numbers, but it is tremendous. And so the idea is when you're able to be in that relaxed state, you're able to tune into this extra information and just know when to speak or the right thing to say. It's like you say, I normally wouldn't say this to someone, but I feel called to tell you this, or I feel called to share this with you. You were picking up on something, maybe you couldn't put your finger on it, that told you, okay, this is okay to share this, or I should share it. It would actually further the conversation. And this is interesting too, because I work with Japanese samurai masters.
Okay.
They came to a product conference about a year ago with me. They gave a talk with Ha, which I think some of you know. We went to DocuSign and Kaiser. I do workshops with them because they're all about peak performance and flow states.
Okay.
On the battlefield, they led Japan for 700 years. And so they'll do this exercise where they give you a stick and they're coming at you and you have to block it. And so they say, look at the stick, look at it coming at you, try to block it. So you do that. Then they say, don't look at it. Look at the horizon. Look past it. Okay, now try to block it. You're much faster and you do a much better job when you're actually not focused on the stick, when you let your body just kind of automatically respond.
So Georgia moment, because last week, I went to play this game when I had to, with my con hall, like there was a competition in my office, and it was sunny and bright. When I would focus on the hole and do all my tapis, my hand should be like this. It would not go. And then I'm like, just looking at the sky and just taking it easy. Okay, I'm here for fun and get some vitamin D. It would go. I was like, what the heck is happening? You asked.
Exactly that. Because our body knows. Our body has an intelligence that the mind doesn't. The other exercise that's wild that they do is one person will kneel and then the other person stands behind them and puts full pressure on their shoulders so they can't stand. So they say, you're going to stand up. Do everything you can to stand up. You cannot get up. Then they make you go like this with your arms. Just make these wide circles. And they say, okay, now stand up. You just shoot up. You go up in seconds.
Oh, because you're not focusing on
thinking about this. And so the body knows exactly how much pressure, how to get up. And so even, the best speakers, they use the word like channeling or it just poured out of me. It just flowed. So if you get into this optimal state, and a flow state has this really nice balance of sympathetic, where you're, but you're also parasympathetic. You're at the same time. So if you think of a basketball player, an artist or a writer, right, they're very focused, also very relaxed, and it's just kind of pouring out of them. And so the physiological technique is to do breath work is just one, to do whatever you need to do to calm and ground your state. You could listen to music, Baroque music or classical. We tend to entrain. So whatever music we're listening to, you can go on a walk in nature. There's a great article in Harvard Business Review, how to take better breaks, according to research. And certain breaks are more powerful than others. They're more recharging. So when you go outside, when you see green space, that's more calming. It's
versus being on Instagram, that's going to drain you.
It's not a break.
Yeah, social media versus going in nature. I totally agree. I used to think that worked for me because, for example, during pandemic, I heard one of the most successful careers for me because I used to work for Tesla, and the environment was crazy. But what I used to do is I used to have a teacher, yoga teacher in Thailand, and we used to have a fixed Zoom session. So that was like my during like I think it was an evening, but in the work because I had built this work life kind of integration where I would go. But then I would never be tired and I was happy. So even the stress would come, but I would just something would just keep me on. And I used to think, what was a game changer? I had not done anything except those yoga classes differently.
Wow, that's
But
amazing.
that changed over a year. Like I was a different person.
That's huge difference. Yoga, meditation, walks in nature, listening to calming music. I mean, it could be anything that works for you. There are different doors to the same room, but essentially what they're all doing is they're putting you in a more relaxed parasympathetic state, which helps you access flow.
Right. So basically, to summarize, for anyone who wants to be at their peak performance, and you need to be at peak performance in order to build visibility because you want to build positive visibility. So it's fair to say that you need to just be in the calm state. But I also like what you said, which is like a harmony of both parasympathetic and sympathetic. So now if I go in the super calm state, then I'm going to sleep. So maybe I don't go there. So how to I like this because I've never thought about this, like how to integrate both. So how do you trigger your mind also? Because then also the worry will be less because let's say I have a crazy important talk and then I can't just think that, okay, I'm just going to be calm and then, get a massage and show when I'm going to sign because my mind won't be convinced and then I won't be able to be calm because I'm not prepared. So what do you suggest to balance these approaches?
The good news is I haven't yet met anyone who struggles with the sympathetic piece.
Okay. Okay, you're working with okay, got it.
Naturally enough, we're naturally like when the talk comes or whatever we're doing, we naturally kind of kick it here and we're more focused and want to do a good job and care. So it's more to bring in the relaxation, the calm.
Understood. So it means you prepare beforehand. That's like your prep part and your active brain, but then in the moment you relax.
Exactly.
Okay. But don't forget to prep beforehand, whether you're
Yeah. Beforehand, exactly.
but don't prepare last minute. Take a break. That's why my mom always used to tell me, never study before exam. Like, you're studying in your car, don't do that. So relax at that time.
Ideally have some amount of space to be in that. But even eventually you get to the point where in 3 minutes, you get very good at just dropping into the calmer state. And I mentioned there's the other tool. So that's physiological. The other psychological.
Okay.
It's as speakers or just generally when we're trying to perform or be more visible, often we put the spotlight on ourselves. So like, I want to do a good job, right? I hope I sound good. I hope like I'm doing well enough at this. So the best speakers, and I found the most successful people, the spotlight is out on the audience. So if I'm giving a talk, I'm not thinking about how am I coming across. I'm thinking about my intention is that the audience understands. My intention is that they're inspired. And so flow state also, one of the qualities is there's no sense of self. You don't even know that you exist. And 100% of your attention is on whatever it is you're doing. So if you're a speaker, you're speaking. If you're a coder, you're coding. If you're an artist, you're drawing or painting. And so when I work with clients, I really help them focus on like, you are there to be of service when you have some information or knowledge, and your job is to help who is ever listening understand, be motivated and inspired. And so it's really having this service mindset that can really help you succeed.
So beautiful. And I think if we all do with that attitude, our work will really outshine in our, even from spiritual perspective, karma perspective, then it's gotta be great, right? It is a win-win situation, I think.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
And that also helps you feel just also calmer and more relaxed, right? Because it's about you and it's not about performance at all.
Right.
Look, I'm in the service mindset that tunes me more into the energy of care, of impact. So I'm really connected with whoever's in front of me. And that is powerful communication. People feel that you care. Of course, they want to work with you, or there's more trust. And also, it's interesting from a communication standpoint. So research tells us that there's only 2 qualities that account for over 90% of the impressions that others form of us. So
What are those two? I can't wait to hear.
they're warmth and competence. Competence and strength would be another way.
Yeah.
But warmth means like, do I like and trust this person, right? Feel like they have good intentions. And then competence is, or strength is, do they have expertise, knowledge? Do they seem confident? And so just by being of service, you're automatically tuning into that warmth. I talk about Bill Clinton a lot in my workshops as a great communicator who was like the epitome of warmth. Even people who didn't want to like him when they were with him in person were like, I loved Bill Clinton. Like I felt like the only person in the room. He was talking just to me. And so, I mean, sometimes when I lead workshops, there are people who have been in person with him and they say like, it was incredible. He's really mesmerizing and he's just so focused on you. It's like nobody else exists.
Okay. How, even if there are 1,000 people present, everybody feels he's with me? Yes. How to do that?
If he's in a one-on-one conversation, he really does just focus on you. He's able to, he's just so present. I'll share what else he does in a second, but there's a great book called The Charisma Myth.
Yes, I have read it. Yes.
Yeah, this idea that you're born with charisma, but really it's just people who are charismatic have a balance of warmth and strength.
Yes. Yeah.
And presence was the other quality, people that are very present. And so he does that one-on-one, but when there's a story about him, he was speaking to 10,000 people and somebody came up to him afterward and said, that was amazing. You had 10,000 people in the palm of your hand. How did you do that? And he said, it's because I wasn't speaking to 10,000 people. I was having a one-on-one private conversation with this person and then a one-on-one private conversation with that person. So he was really thinking about this big talk in this stadium as a one-on-one conversation with different people in the audience. So he was able to create this feeling of intimacy and connection, even when there were so many people in the room. So that level of connection is powerful. And so when we breathe and we ground, we connect with ourselves because it's almost impossible to connect with another if you're not connected. So I think if like you plug in first, and then once you're grounded, then it's pure audience.
Right.
And then you can really connect with them and be present, which is powerful.
And also intention, right? Because energy is where you intend. So if I'm focusing that, okay, this is my one-on-one and I'm not like making a performance, but I'm really connecting with the person, conveying my message. So the other person will also tune in because I'm putting all my focus there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's super helpful. Like for audience, I feel, and I hope many people are able to get into this space.
Yes. Life is just better, right? When you're just more focused on others, less on yourself. You're really just there to serve. And then success and visibility is just a byproduct.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I feel like when I was up till 10 with the students, or I was sending them extra resources, or I do that with clients even now, that created visibility, but that was never my intention. I just found something that I loved and then poured my heart into it and had the intention to be of service to others.
I love it. So because now we are talking this, I want to ask you, according to you, what's the number one difference between a forgettable talk and a powerful one?
Well, what I would say is storytelling. So some of the best talks, some of the best speakers are storytellers. If you look at Brene Brown, Oprah, Obama, Steve Jobs was always creating narratives and stories. If you want to become exceptional, I'd say get really good at storytelling. The other thing that I would say is the best speakers are embodied communicators. So if you look at Oprah, again, or Obama, they're communicating with their full being. Like they are not talking heads. The sound coming from their throat. They are really breathing into their belly. They're standing strong. And then they're there almost like transmitting such a powerful message out there. And so again, that's why the breathing practices, every client will tell you it's shocking how powerful this is. They said the number one thing I gave them was the breathing. Because when you can ground and then speak from this place where you're really just there to help others understand or to serve, that creates this real magnetism
Hmm.
around you. And, you mentioned energy. There is energy. If somebody came in the room next to me very anxious, but didn't say a word, I would feel that. The Dalai Lama or a Buddhist monk came next to me, didn't say a word, I would feel that, right? So we take for granted that we're consistently affecting the people around us with our energy and not just our words. And so if you're someone who's really regulated and grounded, and then you speak with passion and power, I mean, that is magnetism and charisma.
You have also shared about storytelling. So tell me more. When you are a good storyteller, are you reading from your head or your heart in that moment? Or you need to write, like work on your story before and then calm down? And like, what are some actionable tips if somebody has to go present and really they want to build their visibility, but the attitude will be, okay, I want to serve, but eventually behind the scenes, it's also important to maybe there is some element where maybe they're looking for promo or something. I don't know the cause, but if that's the end goal, what would be some actionable things that somebody can start doing
To prepare for storytelling or
to basically, let's say, to combine all of this? Let's say somebody wants to create good visibility, whether inside or outside an org. And in order to do that, we have figured it out that one way is to communicate well. And now let's say they have an opportunity to speak in front of some audience. Maybe it's not a presentation, maybe it's a meeting they have to run with like some senior leadership or present on stage. I think the tactics remain the same. What would be some things that they can do?
yes. So 100% prepare in advance.
Okay. Including storyline.
Tuning storylines.
Okay.
And so a structure that I find really helpful is headline, example, relevance.
Headline, example, relevance. Okay, her. Okay, oh no, her.
So first you would think up what is my main message I want to get across? Like if my message were a billboard, what would that billboard say? Or if I had to distill it down to one sentence, what am I really trying to get across here? And you might have multiple messages. You have your, super message, the main one, the big idea, but then you might have sub messages. But ideally for each one, you bring that to life with a concrete story or an example. And so that forces storytelling. So the example that I give a lot, I do also interview coaching. So if somebody says, what's one of your greatest strengths? You would say, one of my greatest strengths is making decisions in high pressure situations, right? It's clear, it's one sentence. Then you would give an example of that. So let me give you an example from my previous role. You would tell that story. And then you can say, I know those situations will come up quite a bit in this job. And given my 20 years of experience, I feel fully equipped to handle that. So when you use this, or you could say there's a problem in the world. I work with the Nature Conservancy, right? So here's the problem we're seeing in Arizona with urban heat. Then they really break it down. Here's what's happening on the ground with crime, with families, right? You just make it more concrete and vivid. You tell stories. Here's what this means. If we don't address this problem, here's what's at stake if it's not addressed. And so it forces storytelling. Because you're always asking yourself, here's my message. How might I bring that to life with a concrete story or an example?
That sounds great for a situation where, let's say, you are the one who is in control of delivery. Let's say it's a discussion.
Yep.
Maybe where you don't know where it's going to go. You do have some agenda and some context goals of the meeting, like many of professional folks do that all the time. There are big meetings. In that situation, I think the prep part is really knowing your subject, but sometimes you don't, which is okay. Then you can put things and come back to it. What do you suggest? Because you cannot really prepare a story in that, right? You have to go with the flow. What the other person is there versus if you are already prepared by bringing something, then it is going to backfire as well. So any suggestions on that kind of conversation?
Yes, I love this structure even for impromptu speaking. If somebody says, what's been happening this last quarter, you could give it, we've been losing customers. Let me break this down for you, or let me bring this to life for you, right? So then you might start sharing some numbers or some stats. You might tell a story about a specific customer. So The idea of the middle section is just to make it more concrete and vivid
Okay.
for the listener. A great book is made to stick.
Yes, I have it. I've fully read it. I haven't fully read it. Just I will read it.
It's all about, he found the number one mistake when he looked at, the best speeches in history, Fortune 500 leaders, or we speak in ways that are abstract. So we talk about concepts and conclusions without grounding it in stories and examples.
Okay.
So the best speakers are able to, let me shed some light on this, or let me tell you what's actually happening on the ground so you can see what I mean. It's just adding a little bit more vividness.
Okay. Okay. So basically, um, if I have to summarize for our listeners, really, if you are in a situation, take a moment to pause, I think, so that you are grounded, taking your first step, and then whatever message you have, extract the gist out of it, like bottom line, just say that what matters,
Yes.
and then you go into the story, like really follow her, then your our principle, right?
Exactly. There's a clip that I play in my workshop. It's company Razorfish. It was like $1 billion company during the dot-com boom. And I'm not sure, it might still be on Wikipedia. They were codified on Wikipedia because they gave this 60 minutes interview.
Okay.
And it was so terrible because they couldn't answer what they do. The interviewer said, "Tell us what you do," and he couldn't answer it. It was just very abstract. We help customers win, and so later the host comes back and then shares what they do using the headline example relevance structure. So this is old. But they said what they do is they help established companies reach more customers through the internet. Charles Schwab is an example. They helped them with online trading, and that made them a fortune.
But so powerful and so simple and really resonates.
So simple and resonates. If they just said they help established companies reach more customers, you don't quite know what that means, but it's really the Charles Schwab example in online trading, and they could have used a number of other examples.
Yeah.
So the stories, the examples are what do the heavy lifting for you. So another example, which I'm doing now, right? I'm giving examples, but was working with Uber Eats and they were trying to explain their pricing algorithm, which was very confusing for people. So they said, okay, great. Imagine it's Saturday night in San Francisco and there's this many drivers and this many orders. And here's how it all comes together. Just by taking something abstract and making it concrete helps people understand. And so how you can think of a story is just a character engaging in an action. That's it.
A character engaging in an action. Okay.
So Charles Schwab, online trading, San Francisco, this many orders, right? And when we're introduced to a story, there's a character in a place and time.
I was saying, if somebody is talking about their own work, what project has brought some number, let's say they are talking to their leadership, it's like really, then character becomes themselves and what is the outcome of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So you could talk about yourself, you could talk about customers, customers generally, a brand, another company, but we're just more wired for story. So the more you can infuse that into your communication, the better. And it's not natural. So obviously I was not born using the headline example relevance structure, but I think you'll be shocked at how natural it becomes. So when I'm in a meeting or leading a workshop, if somebody asks me a question, I very naturally use the headline example relevance structure. So the idea is before you go in a meeting, I would prep, what is my message? How could I make this more concrete with a story or example? What is the relevance, the takeaway of this? So start prepping that as much as you can. And then you'll notice at a certain point, you don't need to prep anymore. You just naturally speak in that way.
That sounds great. Thanks, Lauren, for sharing that. Now I am going to some myth breaking part of the talk. What do you think is the biggest myth that you have heard from your experience while working with so many different people they are doing when they want to build their visibility? Basically, what we should not do, nobody should do. What have you seen from your experience and people should stop right away?
I think trying to become visible.
So trying too hard.
Making visibility the goal. And I actually thought of this preparing for our conversation. The great book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I've heard about this book, but I think I'm somebody who keeps on buying the books but don't read.
A lot of the books you probably have, there's like 2 or 3 nuggets that you need to know, and you don't really need the whole book, is what I found. But from this book, I actually pulled it up because I think the quote is powerful. He says, for success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. Happiness must happen, and the same holds for success. You have to let it happen by not caring about it.
Beautiful.
And so, beautiful, right? And that's completely what I found in my career. I never aimed at being visible or successful. I just found work that really engaged me, that lit me up. And then I just poured my heart into it, and I cared. Like, I was really there when I was at Stanford to help students. I'm really there now to help clients. I get so invested in them. So if it's really helping the product or the team or the company, that you do become visible. Once you get that mindset of I am here to serve, and you're able to lose that sense of self, you will become, like, visibility is just the byproduct.
Yes, you don't have to do anything with it. So what's a common mistake you have seen crazy smart people doing when they want to raise their profile, like from action perspective? Because this is on their head. Oh, I want to become visible. So be detached from that. I think that's first. Second, like, if you have seen from the people you guide, if they're taking certain actions, and I think mostly these are smart folks, maybe unintentionally, they are doing certain activities just to raise their profile, but ultimately tied to the same thing. But what things they can tactically drop?
I mean, authenticity in speaking is so powerful, and in visibility. So I have a friend who always says to me, you're so good at networking, but I don't think of it as networking. Like, I really think of it as reaching out to people I'm genuinely curious about, interested in, even when I was at Stanford. So how I started teaching was coaching. Matt Abrahams, he has a great podcast, Think Fast, Talk Smart, that I'll also promote here. But he gave a talk. I was genuinely engaged by it. I said, I'd love to connect. We met. At the end of that, we had a great conversation. He knew about my work in coaching from Stanford. At the end of the conversation, I said, if I can be helpful in any way, please let me know. Didn't speak for 4 months. 4 months later, he said, they just expanded my class size from 20 to 40. I need a co-teacher. Would you like to co-teach with me? Right. And so this idea that I was genuinely interested in his work, my work kind of spoke for itself, and he could see I was passionate. I was energized. I think he saw that I'd be someone that was great, nice to work with. And so just this idea of when you see someone who you feel in your company or externally, when you love what they're doing, you're engaged by them. I would say reach out, ask to meet, get coffee, anything. And then that can come back, right? So even the way that I learned about the Stanford job, went to a talk, sat next to a man named Dave. I'll also give him a shout out here. I mean, he really changed my life. I literally just sat next to him at a talk. He was like 30 years older, became a mentor to me as I was navigating my career, knew that I was studying coaching, receives this email from Stanford Business School. Oh, they're looking for a speaking coach. I don't know if this is what you do, but I saw the word coach. He literally forwarded it without thinking, applied, and completely changed the course of my life. And so again, it's when you meet people in the world where there's resonance. Yeah. I think to you mentioned energy, right? Like, follow that energy, connect, stay in touch. And I'm also always trying to help people as well, right? So I'm always making connections with people when I think they get along. And so I think when you notice energy, you reach out and connect. But also, if you can be a connector, start putting people together, right? And then people will think of you and connect you. And just this idea that you never know what will lead to what.
Yeah, you just had 100%. Because many people ask me, how do you, like, any tips for networking? And my biggest tip is, don't think that you are going to get any benefits out of it.
Yeah.
I love talking to people, and that's why even this podcast, I think it's going to make my evening better. That's what I'm doing. I learn something, even though, we learn a lot, but I think having that growth mindset, we always learn, and sometimes some things hit you again let's say you have said something and I know it, but now I'm not practicing it. It's in my brain's cache, and maybe I'll start practicing and my life will change. So I think being open, being genuinely a nice person, right, helps you being like of this unconditional, I would say unconditionally doing the right best thing for everyone, including yourself, will actually bring you also good. That's what
Yes.
I'm getting.
Another book that I love is Give and Take by
Oh,
Adam Grant. Do you know that one?
not yet. No.
You will, not well. He looks at gets ahead in life. Is it givers or takers? And he found it's actually a sandwich. So at the bottom, there's givers, but it's more like kind of people pleasing givers. It's giving from fear.
Mhm.
And there's takers. Of course, they're taking, right? They're going to get ahead. And at the very top, there are these real genuine givers, right? They're really just doing it to connect, to help another person, to serve. And they don't always get success immediately. But after a year or 5 years, 10 years, they've just built this bench of people who are so ready and willing to help them and are thinking of them. And they're not doing it for that reason. Once again, it is genuine.
Genuine, yeah.
But when you've connected people enough and helped enough people, all of a sudden you do have this arsenal and all these people out there in the world that are so, again, ready and willing to help you. So I think, again, it's having this more outward focused mindset. It's not you networking, you being visible. It's what do I have to give in the world? And you mentioned energy or karma, right? Karma is just whatever we put out comes back.
Absolutely. I strongly, strongly believe in that. And sometimes you have to raise 1,000 crops and maybe one will germinate into a flower. So I think if people have to think from transaction perspective, go build, connect 1,000 people and maybe one will be for use, but don't have that mindset. Okay, should I strategically meet this person? Yeah, I think we all value our time. So be mindful. That's what I've learned over the years. People who are, of course, also of the same mindset, but even if it's like somebody is not valuing it today, they will value at some point, right?
Percent. And like you said, 1,000, if that one could be a quantum
Yeah.
person, all of a sudden I didn't apply to teach at Stanford, right? I just, so yeah, even my TED talk, actually, I didn't even try to give a TED talk. I think when you're in this positive state of mind and you're just, I ended up helping the curator for TEDx Palo Alto, right? So I helped her with the workshop she led. So then I knew her and I had this idea. So then I pitched it to her and then I'm giving a TED talk. So
Congratulations.
thanks.
I would definitely tune into your TED talk. When was it? And link it here.
It was in 2018.
Okay. What was the main takeaway from that?
It's about basically it's about overcoming limiting beliefs, and I call them ropes. In childhood, from past experience, we get these ideas about who we are, what we're capable of, how the world works, and they could really limit us. But when you don't believe everything you think, that is necessarily true. I mean, you open up a whole new reality for yourself in a way that you probably don't even know now exactly what's possible for you in work and your relationship. So if you're able to break those ropes, that you can become more visible and have more success.
That sounds amazing.
So I share my childhood, my life. I was very unhappy in my career, very low visibility, like lowest of the low, until I had a series of experiences that helped me break my own ropes.
That brings me to the next question, which is like, as you're sharing, like it sounds like a reflection and a realization moment. Throughout your journey of like your lifetime of changing careers and even in your visibility journey, what is something that has surprised you? Which wasn't you thought is not possible, or some tactic that really worked? Like it could be any surprise element.
Yeah, I think I took for granted that the idea that our thoughts create our reality, that our energy has a big impact. I mean, I've seen that so many times. Like this, if you tell yourself something's hard versus, it's hard to get a job, or there's jobs around every corner. I could get a job in any moment. I have a friend that moved to a new town and she kept saying it's so hard to meet new people. It's so hard. And she wasn't meeting anyone. And then she just changed her thinking to, You can meet people every day. You can meet people anywhere. As soon as she started saying that, she went to the farmer's market and met this girl who was also Persian. And now they're friends. And right. So and there's actually another great podcast. Mel Robbins interviewed James Doty. He's a neuroscientist at Stanford. And he talks about the neuroscience of manifestation. And so often we think of manifestation, we can, right, as kind of woo-woo. But he's like, there's literally a neuroscience to it. And so this is the podcast that he gives. But if you're in a positive state of mind, if you visualize what you want to create, if you have positive self-talk, right? I mean, this really does make a difference because you're priming your body what to look for. So if you're saying it's so easy, this happens all the time, you're going out in the world thinking it's so easy. So you're going to take different action because you have the thought or because you're feeling different. Someone will notice you. Well, you'll spend more time talking to someone, right? And so he talks about the parts of the brain that are at work in all this, but just meaning to say, I mean, my TED Talk was, don't believe everything you think and your thoughts create your reality. But I think whatever, it's been 7 years since then. I mean, it's completely profound. I think if you start thinking, I am visible or I have a message to share, right? And call it affirmations, but they really do work if you keep priming yourself with, I have value to add. I have a message to share. What I have to say is important because you might have a belief subconsciously. What I have to say is not that important, or I don't want to waste people's time. I hear lots of beliefs that people have deeply ingrained, usually from childhood, but not always. And so if you're in a meeting thinking, I don't want to waste people's time, or what I say might not matter, you will stay quiet.
Right. And even whatever you say, others will also get the same energy.
Exactly. So now you're sitting there a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit anxious versus I have, X years of experience. I have good insights and ideas. I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to try things. By affirming that to yourself, you are then more likely to make a comment. You're more likely to say it,
I also think, as you're saying, because if somebody is just thinking in the meeting, oh, should I say what will others think? Is it going to waste time? Then they're having this mind talk versus they're not present in the meeting. So generally you can't bring something, oh, I want to say it now, and then there is no perfect moment. It's more like listening and then talking through relevance, right? Then everybody will understand what you are saying. It will be important also versus, okay, I need to speak or having that pressure. Even if you don't speak in a meeting, I'm like, fine, I'm okay with silence because my funda is when I speak, it should be of substance rather than just like, I used to hate those kids in the classroom, always like saying and tasting that 5 points, just getting teachers, like attention. But even if like, I would appreciate somebody who when says is like, wow, that is something that helped me also to double check, right?
100%. Thinking this recently, I got very into pickleball recently, which I love. But if I'm thinking about something else, if I'm distracted, I miss the ball, right? It's only when I'm 100% focused that I get that perfect hit. So it's the same in a meeting. If you're in your head thinking, is this good? Should I say this? You're going to miss, like you said, that perfect moment.
Yeah.
And so if you can just stay present, that's really powerful and can make a big difference.
So true. And the other thing you mentioned that what we seek, we kind of get it. Like we give the example of the color, right? But it has happened with me. It's a very funny example. So I had a chance to live in South Korea, like almost 1.5 decades ago. And at the time, I was too much into fashion and all. I wanted to buy an LV bag, my first LV bag, like many, many years ago. So I started noticing because in South Korea, I was in Seoul and people are like all carried away in brands. And I would start noticing, okay, what kind of bag I want. You won't believe, within a week, I thought every third person, second person is having an LV bag. And before that, I had never seen so many people. So I was like, what is different? Like, is this like now people have started shopping at home? I was not seeing that much. But then everywhere in the substation, in the restroom, even in Korea, even the janitor would have an LV bag, maybe an old one. I still remember that, like, oh my God, something is happening to my brain. I'm only seeing. But later, that example resonated with me so much because maybe I was paying attention I wasn't like when I go for window shopping, if I'm thinking I'm going to buy earrings, I will only focus on earrings in the market. So nowadays I'm like, I just want to chill. I don't want to shop anything, whatever I like, because then I don't look at other things, right? Maybe there's a cute bag, there is a something else, right?
100%. I talk about this in my TED Talk, actually. So there's this,
Okay.
well, there's a study that they did where they, with makeup, put a very ugly scar on people's faces. And then what they were focused on was sending them into a room to have a conversation with another person, thinking they had this ugly scar. But the twist was before they went in the room, they said, hold on, we just want to touch it up a little bit. Rather than touch it up, they removed it entirely. So they went into the room looking completely normal, but thinking they had a really ugly scar on their face. They go in, have the conversation, come back. They say, how did it go? It was terrible. It was so awkward. They were staring at my scar. I felt so uncomfortable. Right? So that's like, it's so true. Just because you believe something about yourself, you're going to go about the world acting as if it's true, whether it's true or not.
Oh my God. This is so busy.
So the same thing when we have a thought or a belief, or we tell our attention focus on earrings or an LV bag, right? We're going to start seeing it everywhere. When we think there's something wrong with us, or we're not good at something, or something's hard, we're going to see evidence everywhere. James Doty, the neuroscientist, talks about this. It's the reticular activating system. It's the part of the brain that kind of tells us what to pay attention to, what matters. So that's why it's very critical what you're feeding yourself.
God, I think that it sends beyond professional visibility. Let's say somebody's going on a date and like, oh, it's my bad hair date. Then they're just focused on that, right? Maybe the other person doesn't care, and then you are not going to have a good conversation.
100%. But it's not because your hair, it's because you're awkward and uncomfortable, right? So,
and they are naturally not going to like you then because you were awkward. They won't know why were you distracted. It's a vicious circle.
I know. There's a very fun, silly movie called I Feel Pretty. Do you know that one?
No. I can sounds interesting.
It's silly, but it's good. It's with Amy Schumer.
Okay. But I like her, yeah.
Yeah, she goes about the world thinking she's really unattractive. And so it affects her work life, and she affects her dating life. And then she goes to a Soul Cycle class, falls, hits her head, wakes up, believes she's beautiful, believes she's like the most gorgeous woman on the planet. So now she's so confident. So she applies for the job she was afraid of applying for before. There's a guy in line at the dry cleaner behind her. He said, what's your number? Meaning dry cleaning number. And she's like, of course you want my number. Here, I'll give it to you. And he ends up dating her and loving that she's so confident. But it just makes the point so well that if you go around the world acting a certain way, that doesn't become your reality. So it does matter how you're, it's everything, because people are reading signals from us. They go, wow, she must be confident for a reason, or we're just more relaxed, and people feel comfortable around us when we're more relaxed as well.
This is so amazing. So really the crux is it's always inside out versus outside. And because I have seen there are so many people who take speaking classes, which are mostly on the accent, because I'm not from this, like, originally I'm an immigrant, and I like my accent. I was like, I'm not gonna do anything, but I had a housemate who had a beautiful accent, but when she had some accent classes when she was in CMU, but I used to like that accent as well. But she was like, oh, do you want to learn? I was like, sure. But I was like, okay, then I'll just focus on the accent. My mind stops working because I cannot do so many things. So we would go on walks and I would just do it for fun and enjoy in the moment. So, but I realized that people should really not focus there if not required. Really, inside work is more important, right? For the better ROI. Maybe that is also okay for some folks given their job profile. I will not dismiss that. But according to you, what's the biggest ROI? That's where
now it is both, right? I mean, I think if you're just purely confident and purely positive thinking, that doesn't translate into a job or promotion. So it's like that same balance of sympathetic, parasympathetic, warmth and competence, right? So you do prepare, you do develop a certain level of expertise and competence. It's just this other half of the equation matters too. So one of my clients, startup founder from India, very self-conscious about his accent. He would share all this. He wrote a testimonial, very self-conscious. So would be very quiet in meetings. And when he would speak, he would feel very uncomfortable, right? So people didn't really notice him. They would talk more to his co-founder. And so a lot of the work we did was on the breathing, getting him calm and grounded, the importance of authenticity. And so he became so confident, was speaking at all the meetings, like leading the pitches. And then he started to get feedback like your communication was amazing. You were the heart of the meeting. I love your authenticity, right? From investors and customers. And so, the only thing that changed was the inside. He had the exact same amount of expertise that he had before. He just became much more comfortable and confident. And that was the unlock.
He had same amount of accent as well, right?
Accent. We did no accent training. The same exact accent. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Since he was really fulfilling, like they say, self-fulfilling prophecy, where if he is not confident because of his accent, then he's gonna not speak well even on his idea, and then people are not gonna listen to him. So he's gonna think that it's because of my accent. Maybe the reason was not accent, something else, because he is not confident. So
Exactly.
then you help him to break out from that loop.
100%. Yes.
Okay. That's a very interesting story. I hope it helps some of our listeners.
I am so even another one of my clients, a lot of social anxiety, even in small groups, like network events. He's like, I never know what to say or like how to get in there. So I said, don't say anything. I'm like, just send good energy out. Just like think positively, just, you don't have to, and then he went to a conversation. He's like, I was talking the whole time. I knew exactly what to say. He said, did you know that would happen? But, as we were speaking, it took the pressure off when he wasn't thinking, what do I say? Do I speak now? Is this a good thing to say? When he got out of his head and he was just present and relaxed and he didn't need to say anything. That's exactly when it was much easier to speak and share and contribute. So, we see this in sports all the time when you get in your head about it, if it's tennis or whatever you can do, it's different for different clients, depending who I'm working with, what the unlock is, but whatever you can do to get yourself in the optimal inner state,
Yes.
then whatever you're trying to accomplish externally just happens with a lot more ease. Again, it's the flow state. You're like, I don't know how it happened. It just happened because you primed yourself.
Right. And you're allowing that infinite force to work on. I have you read this book, The Invisible Power?
Oh, no, I haven't.
So they say we all have this invisible power, if we are spiritual, we understand there is a creator and there is this infinite energy, like energy. So we are coming in the way by overthinking. If we don't come in the way, then there is the super intelligence that works. Let it work, don't come in the way.
You're more relaxed, you're more present.
You don't care, you're not in a carefree attitude, I wouldn't say. So there's a difference between not caring, careless and carefree, right? So here you are carefree, careless. Yes.
Yeah. That's
this is amazing.
yeah.
So before we end, Lauren, what is something that you would recommend someone who wants to start building their visibility? Like some action plan. You have shared a lot of tips, but if we want to give one superpower, they can start one actionable tip they can start doing from today. What would be that? As all of these different things.
I would think about really optimizing your inner state. So that would be focusing on getting yourself into a flow state. And so we talked about a number of ways to do that, but just through breathing to ground yourself, through the mindset shift.
So that then translates to professional visibility and everywhere else in the life, right?
Yeah, the focus is on whatever the task is at hand.
Yes.
Focused on that. And so it is the inner state. And then the other side of the equation would be if you can in some way go above and beyond, like really developing an expertise in your area. So if you can talk to mentors or other people that have had success, that also connects to the connection piece, right? The more people you can connect with. But if you can research outside of your craft, if you can find mentors, right? So then you're developing the competence piece, expert, and you can stand out. And also you're working on the inner piece. Like that's the really powerful combination.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. And I really love the story you shared about the person who had accent. So true. So many of people have something going on their own head and that comes in the way which they never know, right?
Yeah. Most of the time it doesn't matter. Because again, like you said, his energy and how genuine he was and how passionate and his expertise in the space all transcended. They combined were way more important than the accent.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I really enjoyed speaking with you and enjoyed your energy. Well, thank you, Lauren. I hope our audience could also get the energy through the medium they choose to listen. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, really enjoyed this.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is an original production of Women in Product. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Women in Product YouTube channel. Leave us a review so that others can discover us, or share this episode with others. Original music provided by Jimmy Hahn.